Welcome to another podcast episode of Nuggets with Sauce, Thought Leadership for Thoughtful Leaders, presented by me, Michelle Arentz. Okay. Well, hello and welcome, everybody. This is Nuggets with Sauce. I am your host, Michelle Arentz, and I am thrilled, beyond thrilled. Today is Julie Nichols Day, and I'm saying it's Julie Nichols Day because I went for a swim this morning, and Julie and I, of course, are both swim-type people, although she's got the snazziest freaking hot pink snorkel I've ever seen in my life. So now I'm feeling kind of some pressure and super uncool about it, but, I was thinking about that with Julie today, and then Julie is also somebody who has helped me get the dial moving a little bit better with some things in my business, which is part of the reason why I wanted her to join me today. So I was thinking about her again when I was working through some of that material she'd worked for me. And holy smokes, here she is now having a conversation with me. So Julie, why don't you let our audience know what, and I'm being very deliberate about this. We are not using job titles. There are no job titles here unless we're...
I have all the job titles.
Right. So. And unless we're accusing somebody else of having one, that's not really the point around here. So I would like to know instead, what fires you up and gets you out of bed in the morning, Julie, when it comes to the work world?
I love my people that hire me to do stuff for them. I feel pretty damn lucky to have, I guess they found me because I'm just kind of putting stuff out there in the world and it's coming back to me. Hallelujah. But I've been very extraordinarily blessed, #blessed, to find people who really want to work with me, who seem to really get what I'm all about, and they trust my advice.
Yeah.
And they actually follow my advice. It's so simple, everybody.
I actually did that. I followed your advice. Good for me.
Well, you're on your way to following it. You've started. You did the blog.
I'm at least working on it, if nothing else. That's absolutely awesome, though. I do love that. What a privilege and wonderful thing to be in that space where you're like, man, people get me. They want to work with me. They actually take your expertise for what it is. And we're going to share some of your expertise here today in a moment. Just before we get to that, I want to know your choice. I should have a spin the wheel thing or something here. Your choice. I know we're really talking about you're not really doing reading lately. Your notion of books is they're structural materials for lampstands and decorative items. I understand this. So what's a recommendation that you've got for, if we're not reading it, are we listening to it or are we watching it? What is it and a quick why?
I feel so bad that I don't read as much as I should because I love reading. I love books and I was always a reader growing up, and it's just, I'm super good at buying books.
Oh.
God, I buy the best books, Michelle.
You can't decorate with a Kindle.
I literally buy them, though. I do buy the physical copies because then it's like, oh, I see it. Maybe I'll actually read it.
Right. Yeah.
I'm the worst. So I can't recommend any books written in the past decade, probably, but I can recommend all the television. I love comedy, and I love comedy with a heart. Mm. And you've probably already heard of the sitcoms that I hold closest and dearest to my heart: Parks and Recreation, The Good Place, Superstore. A lot of people know those shows, but there's a show that I have been thinking about for a long time. I keep seeing it come up on Netflix, and I finally took the leap because people recommended it to me. It's called Kim's Convenience, and it is a Canadian sitcom.
In Canada,
right?
Oh, Canada.
Oh, Canada. You have a lot of snow.
It's my native land, so
I know.
Great choice.
So it takes place in Toronto, and it's centered around.
No, I'm sorry. We must stop right there. It's Toronto. There's no second T.
Well, you can live. You don't have to stop it.
Toronto.
Just correct me. Toronto.
Wonderful. All right, keep going, please.
No, I'm glad because now I know how to pronounce that.
Toronto.
And Oregon. I had to be corrected by a native Oregonite, Oregonian. I don't know, but that's how you say it. And don't say Oregon. It's Oregon.
Oregon,
like the organs in your body.
Right.
or the one you play in church.
Right.
Anyway, so
Right.
Toronto. So
Toronto.
it's a Korean family,
Hmm.
and the patriarch and the matriarch, they run the family convenience store.
Hmm.
And the two kids are, grown up. The daughter is in college, and the son never went to college, and he's having a job. But it's all about their store, the family dynamics, and their connections with the community.
Love it.
And it is one of those shows where you're like, it's not like laugh out loud, belly laugh rolling on the
Mhm.
floor, but it's just like, you just feel so darn good when you're watching it. And at this point in our history of time of humanity, I feel like we all could really use a good heartfelt laugh.
I was just gonna say, and not laugh at somebody else's expense either. I mean, I've heard of that show. Shame on me. I haven't seen it yet, so I'm going to add that to my feel good, enjoyable list because I agree. And that's part of why I want to share some of this with our audience too. Is it's not all just work. I mean, there's a lot
Right?
of things. There's a lot of
I could
shit going on
literally,
out there.
I could literally do a podcast every week on TV. Like that's how much I
Well,
love TV.
we might just have to go down that rabbit hole at some point.
There we go. Maybe we'll
We
have a
got to
special
start somewhere here. We got to start somewhere here. So I love that. Thank you for sharing that. I totally forgotten about that show, and now I'm going to go check it out
And
because
the
that's
Sun, the
great.
Sun is there's 6 seasons by the way, and each
Oh,
season
awesome.
has like 14 episodes. So there's plenty to get into and you'll have it for a long time. It's
Yeah,
one of those great shows to also play in the background because they don't really swear very much and the themes are I feel kid friendly that there
yeah,
isn't you don't really have to worry about like
right,
sex scenes and things like that. So
right.
that is also helpful because I have two
Also,
11-year-olds.
kinder, gentler
And
Canadians.
well that's true.
Right.
And also the Sun is played by Simu Liu, who is the star of Shang-Chu, one of the more recent Marvel movies.
Hmm.
So he's pretty easy on the eyes. So that is also a nice benefit.
That never hurts. That never hurts. Awesome sauce. Well, hey, listen, one of the other things I wanted to, speaking of sauce, that's an awesome sauce. I love awesome sauce. And I know you've brought a saucy flavor to the mix today and what we're going to talk about, because we also do want to have a little thought leadership for our thoughtful leaders out there. And, I definitely know you've got some great things to share with us on that. So right before we dive into what you're going to share today, what's the flavor of sauce that's going to go with the nuggets you're going to share with us?
So are we talking about like literally what's the flavor of sauce that I would use with my nuggets?
Could be, or what do you think is the appropriate metaphorical flavor of sauce that goes with the topic we're going to cover today?
Ooh, a metaphorical
Yeah,
sauce.
like, are you
Okay.
feeling like yesterday? When I was doing my first episode, I was like, it was sweet and sour, man. It was like, yeah, there was some good stuff, but there's some sour. I mean, this could be flaming hot if you're really on fire about a topic, or maybe it's like a honey mustard or something. I don't know. What do you think?
Mustard. I personally love a good garlic sauce, especially when I get Mediterranean food. I just like to
All
drink
right.
stuff. But I would really like to talk about like some marketing sauce, and I want to try to help your listeners at home to figure out like, if they do need marketing help for their own businesses, like how do they even go about it? Like, what do they even
Yeah.
do? I hear from a lot of people who finally then seek out my help that they're like, I've been sitting on this for so long. I've had these problems for so long, and I
Mhm.
just didn't really know what to do. And then I saw your post, and then I heard you on a podcast. And then
Yep.
I kind of was like, oh, she could probably help me.
Yeah.
Um, so I'd love to talk about that if that's cool.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think, I kind of think about this. This could slice a couple ways. Maybe we'll see where the conversation goes. Because to me, it's like, in the British rail system, they taught you, if you've ever traveled on this, it's a wonderful kindness that they do. They have this fabulous woman with a beautiful British accent who goes, "Mind the gap, please," as
Mind
you
the
step
gap.
on and off the train, so you don't, put your foot down a hole and break your leg and all this kind of stuff. So I think of that as a very preventative move. Mind
Yeah.
the gap, so you don't break your leg and drop your luggage. Or, sometimes I feel like it's just like, let's get real, cut the crap.
Yeah.
Let's call it like it is. But I think what you're going to share with us today is mostly in the mind the gap space, right? Mind
Yeah,
that gap
totally.
space. Like, hey, let's be preventative. Let's help our leaders and listeners out there think ahead and go, here's some things that I don't have to make these mistakes because Julie's smart enough to let me know in advance. Don't go there. Don't
Absolutely.
touch that hot stove. All right. So give us one, please.
All
get
right,
us
cool.
rolling here. I'm a business leader. I'm thinking about I don't know. I got to market something. What the devil should I be thinking about knowing or doing?
Sure. So if within your business, you feel like you're having a really hard time finding the right clients, or, so far you've been getting leads from friends, from colleagues, and that's really where you're getting most of your clients, but you want to be able to kind of branch out and let the people out in the world who don't know you to help them find you. So first thing you need to do is set your budget. Like, this is the beginning of pretty much every adventure out into spending money, is you got to figure out, like, what is your bandwidth.
You
The
mean it
things
doesn't come
that
for free?
I know, wouldn't that be great if I was just, if I won the lotto and then I could just give this stuff away for free? But you got to play to win. So that's the
Right.
problem, is that I don't like spending my money on lottery tickets, because
And word of mouth probably isn't going to get you far enough.
right. So I really feel like it's really important to do your research on what marketing really costs.
Mhm.
So, there's lots of different levels of marketing help.
Mhm.
There's some people who just specialize in only helping small businesses, which is what I do.
Right.
But there are people at different levels of expertise. So for me, I've been doing this for 12 plus years. There's absolutely some incredible talent fresh out of college who could also help you, but they don't have as much of that lived experience, of
Right.
course.
Right.
The vast
And I bet
majority,
they know tech like crazy if
that's
they're just
true.
coming out of college. So they might have the skill set over here on some things, but maybe not the experience so much. So you got to decide that too, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you really need to look at the numbers, figure out what kind of budget you do have, and then start, going around to different sites, getting different quotes, meeting with different people. I would look to podcasts. Pretty much everyone and their aunt has a
You don't
podcast right now.
say.
Sorry, Joe Biden's texting me. So, don't you love it when you get random texts from,
No,
like,
Joe.
politicians?
Joe's looking for some marketing assistance. He's texting, he's reaching out.
Right? Joe's been reaching out to me a lot, so his marketing team is on fire right now.
Right, they
Um,
are.
so once you've kind of come to terms with that budget, don't be afraid to be forward about what that budget is when you are meeting with these marketing experts, because, the worst thing you can do, I think, is to not be transparent about what your budget is when you're first having those discovery calls with these
Right.
marketing experts, because you may maybe lead them to believe that you have more money than you do, and then they come back with a quote, and then it's like, oh, ouch, no, that's out of my budget. It's like, well,
Well,
why were you so secretive about it? Now,
yeah.
granted, that marketing professional should be asking you about your budget before they give you a quote, just to even
Right.
see if you're
Yeah.
even in the ballpark.
Right,
Because
for sure.
then,
And
if
that's
not,
part of the shop around thing too. What was the old saying about, like, you should get at least 3 quotes on anything. So, you're not necessarily going to go shopping to a giant, premier firm if that's not really in your budget. And can you get a feel for that just by shopping around?
oh yeah, I think so. I think that, especially if you're really, following these folks on LinkedIn, reading their posts, seeing, like, what personality you think would mesh well with your personality.
Mhm.
I am definitely more of a, you know, um, extrovert. I'm literally an extrovert. It's not more like I am. And I know that that would turn some people off. I know
Mhm.
that I may be a little too forward for people or something, which is cool. Like, not
That's
everybody
why you
is,
and I get along so well.
right? We just get each other, Michelle. I think that's what it is. We're
Just,
just like simpatico.
but I think that's something that is a really important factor that maybe a lot of people don't really think about, is it's not just about the service, in the same respect that, dare I say, because I can't help myself, I'm practically compulsive here, in the same respect that you're like, look, you can't just think about the task of a job when you're hiring somebody. You've got to think about the personality of the employee, right? It's the same thing when
Mhm.
you're looking for somebody who's going to be providing a service for you. It's not just the technicalities of, can they do the job, right? I think that's a forgotten thing, is like, it's going to be really hard to partner with a great person in marketing or whatever it is if that person's personality or their take on things or their approach doesn't really work well for you, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think we think about that sometimes nearly enough.
Yeah, no, I totally agree.
Yeah.
Um, my next tip is that,
Hmm.
so we talked about being honest about your budget.
Yeah.
It's really important also to be honest about your timeline. Like, how
Yeah.
soon do you really want this all to happen?
Mhm.
And is it really urgent? Like, how soon does it need to happen? And, setting very specific goals tied to dates. And making sure that that's a part of the proposal that somebody gives you.
Right, right.
When you get a proposal, if you don't have like, okay, here is when I will finish this work, and then very clear terms within the contract and very clear guidelines on, so this is, if this is out of scope of the work, like how much extra is that going to
Yeah.
cost you? Make sure
Oh,
that
what
those
if you change your
things.
mind and decide you need it yesterday? It's like that's
Right.
gonna, like what's the old saying? You can have it good, fast, or cheap, but you
Yes.
can't have all three.
Exactly. I love that. I need to put that up on the wall somewhere so that I
Oh,
can
I
remind myself,
know.
and then I can sit
But
in it.
I think you're making a good point there. Like, be really honest about because I think a lot of us also don't understand. I mean, how many of us have run across situations where it's like people don't understand how much magic is going on behind the curtain to get the job done sometimes. And if we don't have a realistic expectation, or, maybe we're just saying, look, I've got to get this thing out the door very quickly. Okay, but that changes the dynamic of the job, right? I mean, if you have to pull all kinds of extra hours to scramble something up in a heap hurry, that's a way different thing than saying, oh, I've got 2 months before we got to get something out the door,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. As you're talking, I'm coming up with more things I want to talk about. So I just want you to know I'm not ignoring you.
Fantastic. Well, we got time on the clock, man. We'll just, yeah, this is probably what we're having here, Julie. And I love this. Is like, sometimes you're just going to get a few extra nuggets thrown in, and I'm okay with
I
that.
am a fan of the
We have
20
an
piece.
appetite.
So, I mean, I won't eat the 20 piece. My children will. And I like to buy the 20 because then I give 10 each and it's cheaper than getting two 10 pieces. But
Mark,
I,
see?
I am absolutely a McDonald's expert. I should put
Right.
that on my resume.
Yeah. And, by the way, everybody, we're not getting a lick of any money whatsoever for just name dropping a particular
Like,
company.
like McDonald's needs our,
Right.
needs
McDonald's so needs our help.
so, anybody heard of McDonald's? You
Yeah.
might
I don't
want to try
know.
it.
Do
I
they need a
don't know.
marketing person?
McDonald's, call me. I
Oh,
got ideas.
Julie, what can I say? I'm loving it. All right. Moving on from that.
Stop.
Wah, wah, wah,
Oh my God, how many taglines for McDonald's can we come up with from over the years?
We're gonna have to make a whole separate episode. And I
I
think in
think
that
so.
episode, we really will probably sit here and eat some nuggets. I couldn't tell you the last time I ate anything from
You know, you
McDonald's.
can you can have a break today when
I
you have your
could.
nuggets. You deserve a break today. That's what it
I
is.
do. We all do. We
I
all do.
love that idea. You deserve a break today. Then it's like,
Yeah.
yes, I do deserve it. That is a really great
I'm
tagline.
worthy. I'm
You're
worthy.
worthy of that Big Mac.
Fantastic. Well, I'll tell you what, we're
Is that Big
also
Mac
worthy
crazy?
of your next wonderful nugget. So
Perfect.
as we're making our brain juices flow and we're the sauce is extra delicious over here. Stir it up further. Give us another one.
Okay, and because a lot of this advice that I've already given can be applied to any consultant or contractor that you use, I'm going to do something more specific to marketing. Um, do some research on the specific kind of marketing you need,
Yeah.
because there's so many. Marketing is a giant umbrella with a million little umbrellas underneath it. Here's some of the bigger umbrellas underneath the giant umbrella.
Mhm.
Content marketing. So that's anything around really the written word
Mhm.
or around speaking. So that would include blogs, emails, video, social media posts,
Yep.
the how you write the content for your website to make it optimized to be
Mhm.
found in Google searches, stuff like that. So that's like one area. That's what I love to do. I'm really a content marketer at heart.
Yep.
And a trade, because that's where most of my experience
Yep.
is. Now, then there's paid marketing. So we're talking about ads. So we're talking about, ads within a social media feed, ads that are on a website,
Right.
any kind of ads that might be like, like you can even buy ads on Hulu now that are targeted to your specific area.
Right.
and just show to those people in your market.
It's wild, wild west when it comes to the digital world, isn't it? I mean,
Oh my
you can
God.
pretty much park anything, anywhere, anytime
I
now.
mean, in the cab, in the Uber, whatever,
Yep.
you know, they've
Yep.
got a little screen. They're showing you
Gas
ads there.
station. I can't gas up anymore without somebody blathering something at me while I'm standing at the pump.
Exactly. So that might be the kind of marketing that you need, more of like that native ad marketing.
Yeah.
Um,
And what you say with that too, you also got to be thinking about or getting the good advice from the marketing expert. Where is your audience?
yes.
Right?
So
Like I
that all goes back to branding.
Right. Like you got to think about if you're going to market, where is your audience going to see it? You know, like, does anybody read a newspaper anymore? Are they actually picking up magazines or however you want to shake that out? You know, you got to be thinking about that or know where are people finding you or where are they more likely to find you when you park your message out there, right? We got to
Yes,
think about that too.
absolutely. So
Yeah.
much of like what a lot of business owners never do, and they just want to jump into marketing, is they never do the brand strategy, which is something that I love doing with people. So I offer a brand strategy workshop where I will sit down with you for like a full day, and we will
Mhm.
go through creating your business's purpose, your mission, your values, your competitors. What is your ideal client avatar? What does that person look like? What do
Yeah.
they do for a living? How old are they? You know, what do they like to do in their free time? Coming up with your brand's voice, your brand's personality. What does that
Yeah.
sound like? Creating that tagline, talking
Mhm.
about like, we'll create messaging around, you know, what do you want? What kind of message do you want to get across?
Yeah. Yeah.
And those value propositions of
Right.
like,
Because
what
you want to
value
be
are you actually bringing to your
Yeah,
customers?
because you want need to be seen and heard by the right people, because otherwise your message doesn't really land. You know, it's like there's certain, it's like anything, you know, if you're shopping for certain things, some people want to go to some places and other people don't, you know. I'm not going to walk into certain stores. I'm not that demographic. It doesn't speak to me. You got to be
Yes.
thinking about that too, you know.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
so so you know, for those of you who are out there watching or listening to this and maybe it's in early stages or you know you're kind of struggling a little bit with that, you know, maybe you're in an entrepreneurial position or something, maybe it's that step back a little bit, step away from the gap a little bit and ask yourself, you know, have you missed that mark? Because like you even said a couple of things there that I think are often forgotten, tying it back to mission, vision, values. Does anybody, I mean, what do you stand for? And we could go down a whole other rabbit hole. And I know we will
Oh,
at
yeah.
some point, but you think about like, especially our Gen Z, our youngest cohort starting to enter the workforce and certainly having a lot of spending power, even if they're not in the workforce, they care a lot about what companies stand for.
Yeah, they
And
do.
they want to be aligned to that. Like they're much more purpose driven in many respects. And they're much keener on like they, and you know, they walk with their wallet, even
Yeah,
if
they
it's a
do.
digital wallet. It's like they're not necessarily, of course it is, you know, but they're not gonna spend their money at companies that don't speak to what they care about. And how do they know that? And so I think that's really a critical thing. You know, what's your strategy? Who are you trying to, you know, I guess if your audience isn't Gen Z, who cares? But I bet they're, you know, talking to their parental units about certain things too. Mom, don't buy from there. Dad, don't go for that. Why?
Mhm.
Well, because, you know, so I think that's a really, you know, critical point to, you know, get going is like the cohesion and you know, the coherence of everything that your business.
Yeah, that conceptual brand strategy, because a lot of people time will think of like branding and they just think like logos and colors and fonts, which is absolutely a part of it, but that's really
Right.
your visual
Yeah.
branding. You really have to have that conceptual work
Right.
that you've done because that is going to inform everything you do in your
Yeah.
marketing strategy.
Well, and that even overlays when we talk about, you know, taking down another notch, personal brand. I mean, you got to think about your personal brand is not just, you know, what you say about yourself, but it's also how do you appear to others? You know, if your personal brand is sweats and a hoodie, okay, well, that's a very different look that goes to a very different audience. You know, some people out there would raise an eyebrow around, you know, that. So the whole brand and the message around that, I think, is super duper critical.
One of my favorite marketing voices, her name is Eliza Licht, and I have two of her books. I haven't read either of them, but I
Well,
listen
don't
to her
start
podcast.
now, whatever you do.
I mean, they're beautiful. They got really nice
Hey,
covers.
I'm going to give you a ton of props for you even knowing what books you have, even though you haven't read them. Because I bet if I had to really stop and think about all the books that I have that I haven't read, I might get stuck.
Yeah, I try to ignore the ones from the past couple decades, but the
Yeah.
ones that I've recently bought are really more top of mind.
Mhm.
So what Eliza said that really struck me, and I actually heard it on a podcast, was that personal branding is when people are talking about you in rooms that you are not in.
Yeah. Yeah. I have
So
that in
you
a
know,
managerial workshop I do. What do you, and that's an activity that I get people to do is what do you want people to say about you when you're not there? And what are people actually saying about
yeah,
you?
so that's their personal branding. Like, what's your brand? A hard
Yeah.
ass who nobody wants to work with, who's a
Yeah.
pain in the butt and always makes
Jimmy
things
the jerk.
difficult?
Yeah.
Exactly. Or do you want to be
Nicely.
the person that inspires others and they
Yeah.
want to be around?
Yeah. Yeah. And knowing that both about yourself as a leader and knowing about that for your business, like otherwise you're having an identity crisis, aren't you?
Absolutely. I have
Yeah.
one more tip I want to say,
All
and
right.
I think this applies to also many other kinds of small businesses, but know your bandwidth for working with somebody who's going to come in and be your marketing expert. Because if you get all jazzed and you bring somebody in and then you're just not available to answer their questions or take meetings with them,
Mhm.
also if that is your situation, that's okay, but you just have to make sure that they understand that and that timelines are set appropriately based on
Right.
how available you are or you aren't, because that can be
That's a great point. Yeah, like what do you got to be able to put some skin in the game there or designate the right
yeah.
person if you can't do it.
Yes.
Who's your backup?
Yeah.
Good
Who's
leaders
gonna?
always have a backup, don't they? I mean, good leaders always have a plan. You got your A game plan, but you got to have a backup B plan and a backup person for that.
Yeah,
Because
and you need
otherwise,
to make
yeah, your
sure.
project could stall out.
Yeah, and you have to have a backup person that really that as a business owner, you've really like prepped them and they really understand what
Yeah.
you want. Because I've worked for people in the past where, they might say, "Oh, could you take this call for me?" or "Could you write this proposal for me?" And I'm like, "I would, but I don't trust that I'm going to know what you would want to be in it." Like, where I haven't been aligned with them because they kind of just like keep things to themselves and then like they think I can read their minds.
That's so
So,
good of you to be so honest to say I don't trust myself with this, as opposed to the flip side of that, saying, yeah, sure, I'll take that call for you. And
right.
then you just completely hoop it.
Yeah, but it's like it's amazing to me when some people are like, "Oh, but you can do that," and I'm like, "No, I can't," because like every time I try to talk to a client and I give them like what I think you're going to say, you turn around and say the opposite.
Yeah.
So if you
Awesome.
don't have, some sort of synergy with synergy, I feel like that's such a horrible buzzword, but
Chemistry.
somebody, yeah, and I just, you want to make sure that you've got somebody on your team that can really be your voice
Yeah.
when you're
Yeah.
not there. But having that availability, because like a marketing person isn't just going to go away and like wave their magic wand and come up with the things and all it's perfect.
They're
They're gonna
not.
need, they're they're gonna need your feedback. So there you
Everything I ever thought I knew about marketing just got crushed in that one last sentence there,
go.
Julie. All right.
I do
So
I
let's
do have several magic wands though.
So
They're,
let me see if I paid attention and learned something here today. So I'm going to attempt to recap this. So you're telling me that if I'm going to do this right, among many other things, and we'll have to have more conversations and unpack these further, but right out of the gate, I better have a realistic budget, get very real about how much money can I actually spend if I'm going to be getting any marketing done. Secondly, get really real on my timelines. How quickly do I, want it to be done versus, by the way, how realistically can we get it done? Because time is money. So that's
yep,
going to tie back to your budget anyway. And then the third thing here is, really make sure that you've got your skin in the game to be that partner with your marketing person so that, because otherwise your time and your money is going to fall off the rails anyway, because if you're not around to answer their questions, work with them, help them out, like they're not going to be able to get ahead the way that you want. Did I
yep,
get this
absolutely.
right?
You got most of it. I would also add on
Okay.
to educate yourself on the specific kinds of marketing that may
Right.
be most
Yes.
beneficial to you,
Yep.
and brand strategy. That if you
Yeah.
don't have brand strategy, that
Right.
should be a priority to get in
Yeah.
place.
Yeah. So before you throw your money out the door, have a bit of an idea or get somebody who's got expertise like you, Julie, to help them figure out, get the help you need. Because, if there's one thing, I think a lot of us think, oh, we can all do it ourselves. No, I didn't get into my line of work because I'm good at marketing. I got into my line of work because I'm good at something completely different. My world is the learning and development and education world. I'm not a good marketer. I need somebody who's marketing material to do that for me. And I think a lot of us get into this space of like, I'm supposed to wear all the hats.
Yeah, but like everybody I know that has a small business hires an accountant.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't try to do my own books.
Hire the expert to do the things that you're not the expert on. And by the way, you'll enjoy being a much better leader because then you get to focus in on what you love doing in your line of work. Right.
Absolutely.
I think that's the magic ticket. Well, this has been awesome. We are definitely going to have some more chats along the way, Julie. I'm so glad you joined me today. These were some excellent nuggets with some very tasty sauce on the side. Thank you so much. And so we will be catching everybody again soon. Thanks for tuning into this episode of Nuggets with Sauce. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe so you get notified with new episodes as they come out. In the meantime, focus on setting yourself up for success and others too.